Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update, guys, as we are getting closer and closer to the holiday time here in the States, and that leaves lots of time for nothing else. All the preparation that leads up to that does seem like it does just kind of dominate your life. But guys, was just a week on the channel. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't call it a good or a bad week necessarily. Very, very busy, as I'll talk about. But let's just dip into it like usual, guys, to begin with what am I reading. I did finish The Mad Ship last night. I did like this book quite a bit. I've had a lot of people ask me, did you like it more? The Ship of Magic. Here's the thing is I feel like this series, and I kind of alluded to it in my review of Mad Ship, of Ship of Magic, is that it feels like this is very much one story. And they just divided it into 3 volumes because obviously they couldn't print one book that big. So I don't know if necessarily you can do that. At least I don't think so. Because neither one of them really feel like there was like an enclosed story around it. It just felt like hey, to be continued. That's really what I think it did really feel like. So with this one, I'd say I liked Ship of Magic a little bit more. But for reasons that sound kind of like I'm trying to have one foot in, one foot out. There's lots of stuff towards the end of this book that, like Malazani, kind of went over my head. I think I have an idea, but I'm not really sure. And that's one of those things where I believe that I'm going to understand it later. So I feel like if I have any criticism of the book, it's just more that, there's stuff I didn't understand. But again, I know that she's a smart enough writer that she's going to make it clear to me in the next book. So I don't really want to count that against it. But I would say that would be the only thing holding it back. The character work is still just as good. Everything that's going on is still just as interesting. The dynamic between all the characters is just amazing. I love the way these characters interact with one another. There's just like this one scene, for example, where someone's pushing someone to do another person's family member a favor for their family. And I'm trying to be as vague as possible here. And basically she says, please don't, because in your family, when that happens, you guys pull together and you're stronger for it. In my family, when that happens and there's fighting and there's discontent, someone ends up getting banished from the family. So please don't push. And I was like, wow, that is, right here for a character that was just very much a side character, almost like in the background, has a couple of lines in the book, really. So again, she's able to just make all those characters seem so real. And the dynamic between even the smallest of a character and the biggest of main character in the story, super powerful. So again, the world she's building here is just fascinating. And I loved it. I loved it again. Again, she's 4 for 5 for me now. So I'm having a feeling I'm going to end up loving this series quite a bit. And when I update my top 10 fantasy series, this will probably be rolling onto it. But we'll see. We'll see. There's still a lot to go. There's a lot of ball game left in the realm of the Elderlings. But as of right now, Live Ship has really, really turned things around for me. Where I liked Farseer, I'm loving this. I'm thinking this is, if she sticks the landing in book 3, it's going to be one of my favorite trilogies that I've read. So I don't say things like that lightly. So I'm very excited about where she's going. But that's all I read really this week, guys, because it is such a beast of a book. I know a lot of people that read her books or on audio, read books on audio, or whatever you want to call it, that listen to books on audio. You listen on audio, you read. Anyways, that always ends up going down a conversation where people start getting mad, and I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is that people that audio these seem to go through them much, much faster than people who read them with eyes only. And I think that's because with me reading Robin Hobb books, I like to chew my food, as I put it. I think her books are way, way too dense to just run through them. I like to read no more than 2 chapters at a time, because I like to let them marinate. I like to think about each one of those chapters, think about exactly what happened, what everything could mean, what everything did mean. So that's just kind of something I do like with Sun Eater by Chris Verrocchio as well. I can't burn through those books because I like to sit and think about what just happened, let it all soak in, and think about it. Like I said, chew my food. And that's the way that I'll probably be doing all of Ms. Hobbs' books, because they do require a lot of thought, and I'm fine taking my time on them. Now, I do say taking my time, but I say I did Ship of Magic in 10 days, and I did this one in 11 days, with work and with kids and with scouts and all that stuff too. So I still probably pretty quick to some people, but compared to audiobookers, definitely not. I think they've blown through the whole trilogy in the time that's taken me to read, one of these. But again, I have no problem taking my time with Miss Hobb. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Now, as for what am I going to read, guys, I did start Desperation last night. I just hit myself in the face with a Stephen King book. Last week I hit myself in the eye with a bookmark. This week I hit myself in the face with a book. So one of these times I'm just going to knock myself out on camera, and I'm going to leave it in there for you. But I started this one last night. I had a lot of people ask me, are you going straight into Ship of Destiny? No, I did say, to avoid possible burnout, I didn't want to read 3 monster books like that in a row. So I wanted to kind of break it up a little bit. I put Let the Right One In between Ship of Magic and The Mad Ship, and now I'm putting Desperation by Stephen King in between The Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny. I'm just excited I get all those names right, because when I first started, I was like, I'm never going to be able to differentiate the titles of those books. But with Desperation, again, it's a book I read when it first released, the same day as The Regulators. Don't remember a ton, except that there was like a psycho sheriff in it. That's really all I remember. But I said in my memory, I liked one of Desperation or Regulators more than the other, and I can't really recall what it is. So I didn't get very far, obviously. I only read like a chapter before I fell asleep last night. But that's kind of what I plan to do for most of this week. I know it sounds weird to some people. Say, hey, so you don't want to read 3 of these massive books in a row, but you're going to get a book this massive between them? Well, I think Stephen King books do read a little faster, I think, for me at least, than a Robin Hobb book does. There's not as many moving parts. There's not as big of a world in his stories, unless you're like dealing with Dark Tower, that you can actually just kind of roll through one of his just standalone books rather easily. It's not really a problem. So that's why I chose to do it that way. And then, guys, yes, I'll be doing Ship of Destiny after that. So if somehow I fly through this, which I doubt, I'll start this sometime this week. Right now, the plan is to do this during Thanksgiving week. You know, things should be slow at work, and then we have some time off for the holiday, so that should be the plan there. Going over to to family events and stuff when everybody starts passing out after they have their turkey. I'll be trying to read on this a little bit, I think. So that's really all my plans that I have going forward for the rest of November. I'd like to fit in that other Drist book, Streams of Silver. If I do get all this done before Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee comes out, I think that's the 29th. But the month is pretty much planned. And I'm all good with that because I'm having a great time. I really am enjoying the Eldlings. I like to let the right one in a lot. I really am probably... I don't imagine I'll dislike Desperation. Like I said, with Desperation Regulators, I remember I liked one more, but I didn't hate the other one. I just remembered I did really like one more. And I'm excited to see which one prevails on the revisit. So how about this week on the channel, guys? I was completely crushed this week. For whatever reason... Ever since the virus that shall not be named, restrictions lifted, and kids have been able to go back to school, they've had this weird thing where they'll just have random days off, or a virtual day, a virtual learning day where they're supposed to work from home. This week, whatever, they had that on Monday and Tuesday. So, yeah, not only do they get a week off for Thanksgiving here in a couple of weeks, but they got a 4-day weekend this week. And then, you know what? They could have combined. They could have done that for Halloween. That would have made more sense to have Halloween off or the day after Halloween off. Again, the public school system out here is screwy. But anyway, so I had the kids on Monday and Tuesday while I worked from home. And if you've ever worked from home with your kids there, you know that's not easy. So that kind of dominated my time. And then I had Scouts 3 of 5 days this week. And then, of course, I had the Astros in the World Series. And I don't know if you guys know, being a sports fan, it can take over your life if your team is in contention for a title. It can dominate your every thought. You become a nervous wreck. You start, thinking about worst case scenarios. How will you react? This year I had a new wrinkle in that, oh my God, how is my oldest going to react? Because he got really emotionally invested. Like, how is he going to react if they don't win and things like that? So it's just one of those things, guys, that I've said that I feel like it's almost an easier life when your teams aren't good because the stress levels are way lower. And I know it sounds like Mike, you're complaining about having too much money here. Yes, my team being in contention for a title. I'm not asking anyone to cry for that. I'm just saying it can kind of take over your life. So, that ended over the weekend, but, then the emotional hangover from that just did kind of bleed into the week. So that really did just really take over our lives here the last week plus. And I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad it ended the way that I wanted to. Even if a lot of you are not happy for me, that's okay. That's okay. I will cry into my championship gear once again. So I didn't record, guys, from Friday until yesterday morning when I did the book haul. I did not record a single thing all week because of that. It was interesting. I think that's the longest stretch I've went since I've started doing this. I had 3 consecutive days of absolutely nothing on the channel. But it happens from time to time. Life does get in the way, and I had planned on recording that book haul like Wednesday night, and I came home and we didn't have anything for scouts or anything like that, and I just passed out in the recliner and decided I'm not going to be able to do anything tonight. So sometimes you're old and you get exhausted. It does happen. But yeah, I did do a couple of things. I talked about the Robin Hobb rollout. That is the panel discussion that we're going to do. The panel that I put together to discuss all of the Realm of the Eldling stuff. We're going to do an introduction episode and a Farseer episode first. And these are going to be full spoilers where we talk about each series, and then with each series after that, with Tawny Man and with Live Ship and all those things, we'll be doing one spoiler discussion for that. No time limit, anything like that. But it also is 5 of us, and it cannot always be easy for us to find the same night that we're all free. So I don't really have a hard schedule on that. I know with the holidays, we weren't able to get anything together in November. So we'll be starting that, I believe, early in December will be the first episodes of that. And then hopefully before the end of December, we'll be able to do one for Live Ship as well. But yeah, fun conversation to have about why I'm planning to do it this way. That was very much something that seemed like viewers wanted, was for me to go into spoiler talks for these series. And I think the best way is to have a nice mix of newbies and veterans for that series alike. I think that will end up for the best conversation. So I'm excited to do it. Hope you guys are excited as well. If you guys want to start catching up, I'd say pick up Farseer now. But even if you don't, guys, these guys, I've had people tell me, oh, well, you're not giving us enough time to read these. This was never like an official read-along or anything like that. This is just something I had requests for. So it's one of those things like people tell me still to the day. They start reading Wheel of Time and they go back and find my old spoiler talks for those Wheel of Time books, and it helps them decompress from each book. Same thing with this, guys. These videos will always be here. You can't join us live, hey, that's cool. They'll be here as long as they don't find some reason to kick me off the platform, which, you never know. But those videos will always be here, so when you do read them, you can go back and you can find those videos. So, again, I'm sorry if you feel like I didn't give you enough schedule to plan ahead about reading these, but that's just, it was never really a plan on the channel. So if you want to know now, I'm planning on reading Tawny Man January, February, March of next year. So if you want to try to catch up before then, that would be my recommendation. But yeah, we'll be starting that here rather soon. Staying with Hobb, I did do my Ship of Magic review, and that was one of the first reviews that I kind of did like a little tweaking. I said I'm only going to be doing this with Robin Hobb books, not with every book on the channel, and where I had light spoilers. It's where I didn't give you major plots of the story, but I did talk about some of the things that happened to the characters in the story that you might consider spoilery. And that's why it was a 35-minute review as opposed to the usual 20 minutes. But good feedback on it. It does seem to be the format that people wanted me to do because I think it gives people who have read it and know why it's a good book more encouragement to actually watch it, whereas people who haven't read it, like I said, when you get into sequel books, and I'm on book 4 of 16, I think that I don't really need to be doing spoiler-free reviews for you at that point because But again, it's not a full spoiler review. We're saving that for the discussion, so I want people to understand that. But I had a lot of fun with it. I think you could see my enthusiasm in that review for how much I did really like that book, and I should be doing the same thing for the Mad Ship before I start Ship of Destiny. That is the plan, but we will see, guys. And then I did my October of 2022 book haul, which came out on a Friday, which is unusual. That's why the weekly update's coming on a Saturday. But it's just, it was one of those things, like I said, the week kind of got away from me. But I wanted to do that. It was a little bit of a different book haul in that I got 0 books from viewers for this one. So there's a lot of other things that I talk about in that one. I did get some stuff from viewers, but no actual books this time, which I've said is great because I don't know where I would have put them. But always fun to do a book haul. Talk about new books that I bought, that I've received, things that publishers and authors have sent me, and that is what we did there. So another fun book haul. I did do a video on another channel this week, which actually was the day after the World Series ended, so it was much less stressful than it would have been if we had scheduled it as we originally had planned to do it during the World Series. But I did talk with A.R. Witham, that is the author of The Legend of Blackjack, over on his channel, and I'm going to link it here for you to watch. And that video is interesting because he asks a lot of personal questions. He wants to know a lot more about the person than actually what it's like being a booktuber. And I always love talking about that because it's one of those things where yeah, if you want to get to know somebody, that's the best way to do it, more so than just what they like to read. I have no problem sharing some things about life because I feel like some of my struggles that I've went through in life, if other people are going through the same struggles, to show them that yes, there is an opportunity and ways for you to get out of them. So that's just one of those things. I have no problem sharing those kinds of things. And if you are into those kind of things, hey, check out his channel and make sure you give him a sub. One of the kindest guys that I've met dealing with in this industry so far. Great author, great interviewer, and I had a great time hanging out with him over there, and I hope to do so again. So how about a little bit of next week plans, guys? I do have a couple things in the plans for this week. I'm going to start planning for my 2023 stuff and my end of year 2022 stuff, and that begins by looking ahead to 2023 with some standalones that I want to get into next year, some standalone books. Now, there are a couple cheats on there. There are a couple that you would consider part of a series, but I'm like, yeah, but it's like books that were like prequel books and things like that. But again, most of them are going to be 100% standalones. There are no prequels, there are no sequels, things like that. But I know that like last year I put the James Bond series on there because every single one of those books are a standalone. People are like, no, but it's part of a series. That shouldn't count. And I understand that, but okay, I'm tweaking the rules a little bit, So with things like that, I'll try to be as fair as possible. But there are some authors that you guys have been railing on me for years to read that are going to be on that list that I think that some of you might like to hear me talk about on the channel. And there's a great possibility if I do end up liking those. So standalones are always something I think that any epic fantasy reader is going to need because, it's nice to pick up a book once in a while that doesn't say book 1 of 9. It's pretty nice to have one to be like, hey, this is one book I can kind of dive all in and be done and walk away. It's really, really great. So we'll be talking about that sometime this week. Thinking about for a review, I might finally review Swan Song by Robert McCammon this week. Something I wanted to do relatively right after I read it, but I just never really did. And then I ran into spooky season. Just haven't found the time. Once I went down to one review per week, had a hard time. I was doing the Tolkien stuff before that, then the spooky season stuff. So I'm finally at the point where, okay, I can do Swan Song. Guys, one of the best books I've read, like, ever. So I'm going to have to do a review and talk about it, and I can't wait. It's a beautiful book, and I hope I can encourage more people to read it if they haven't yet. And we'll be talking about that soon. I got some plans for if I got some time, an idea I've been kind of noodling for a little while, and it was when I got that Worlds of Ice and Fire, what is it, the Lands of Ice and Fire book that Crow sent me for my birthday, where I had all of the Westeros maps, not just the main one that you're used to seeing, but Westeros, Essos, all that stuff, all of the maps of the Land of Ice and Fire, and it got me thinking, what are some of the best maps I've seen? So I'm thinking about doing one video of like the best lands / maps, that kind of thing. The lands that I've really just poured over maps and things like that, going through some of these journeys and followed along with our characters in these stories. So I think that would be a fun conversation to have. Don't really know if it's going to be like a ranking or anything like that. Just going to talk about some of my favorites and maybe some of the best maps that I've seen. I don't know. It seemed like a fun conversation to have because I know that there are a lot of beautiful maps out there, and there are a lot of fantasy lands that I visited that I'd like to talk about why I think they are great. So that should be on the schedule sometime for this week. I know, guys, I haven't done anything for Mike's Media Reviews. I talk about how busy I am. This channel still takes priority, but I didn't even put my TV and movie talk segment over on Mike's Media Reviews last week because I was just absolutely hammered. But I think this week I'm going to try to get back into it. I am going to try to talk about God of War Ragnarok. That's the new the sequel to God of War on the PlayStation. I did get it. Haven't really gotten that far into it yet because of how busy I've been, but I do plan to try to play it a little bit more this weekend and be able to talk about it over on Mike's Media Reviews. Maybe do a brief review on if it lives up to the hype that it had coming in, because that first one, look, I've been playing the God of War game since the very first one on PlayStation 2, so I've been all in on this series since the beginning, and they only seem to be getting better as it ages. But we'll see how it goes with Ragnarok. I expect more of the same because it seems like the same care has been put into it just based off of the first 3 hours of gameplay. But I'm excited to talk about it over there and why I think it's a great series and a great game. But before I go, guys, there is a couple of TV and movie talk things I want to talk about real quick. First, I got to say rest in power to one of the greatest of all time. That is Kevin Conroy. If you don't know, he was the voice of Batman on Batman the Animated Series, in the Arkham games. Just basically any Batman that you heard about, Mask of the Phantasm, things like that, that was the voice of Batman for many, many people. I remember when Batman the Animated Series first came out, I remember I was like, I'm not, I feel like I'm starting to get to the age where I'm close to getting out of animation. And I watched the first episode. I was like, hey, this is really cool. They got Danny Elfman's music from the, the Tim Burton Batman movies. And then I was just transfixed. I remember actually joking about that when it started, being like, you got Luke Skywalker voicing the Joker? Pfft, yeah, that'll go over well. But now here we are, all these years later. I'm reading a Batman comic book, and I'm hearing Kevin Conroy's voice for Batman. I'm hearing Mark Hamill's voice for the Joker. And 66 years old. I had no idea that he was an alien health or anything like that. Just, it was a real gut punch, because that's feels like the end of my coming of age, really. Right there, right before you turn a teenager, when Batman the Animated Series came out, and that show just holds a special place in my heart. It's held up incredibly well, by the way. I did get the Blu-ray set a couple years ago. Started watching with my kids. They love it, so it's aged incredibly well. I love how it has like that pulp kind of feel to it. Just a magnificent series, and Kevin Conroy is one of the biggest reasons why. So gone too soon, my friend. May you continue to spread the legacy of the Bat when you're reading up there at them pearly gates up here very, very soon. So guys, I got one last thing, and it might seem kind of negative. It's because I have no expectations for video game adaptations. They don't usually go very well. Gears of War is probably one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love that series to pieces. It was one of those that came along at a time where I said, I don't know if anything is going to be able to pass Halo as like the it franchise right now. And then Gears of War came out, and I felt like I completely daddy slapped Halo. And I think there's room for both of these things. I never said that you've got to choose one of them. I'm just saying that Gears of War, just the story, the gameplay, the characters really just kind of just took over everything for me. It just became like the thing for me. I loved it. It was just such a great, great series. And now they're making an adaptation on Netflix. So you think, hey, you should be excited, right? How do video game adaptations go? So I expect the presser any day now to say, yeah, we're doing a Gears of War adaptation, but we're not doing it like the game. We're doing our own thing. I expect to hear that any day now. They think, oh, well, we'll have a chainsaw gun. That'll make it Gears of War. I don't know. I'm not very excited about it. I mean, I've had my dream castings, Terry Crews as Coltrane. A lot of people want to see Dave Bautista as Marcus, and I wouldn't mind that. That'd be really, really great. I could do a whole thing on fan casting for that. John Cena would be a great Baird, honestly. But I just don't expect them to actually follow the storyline of the game, which is a shame. Because, again, it's with these things, it doesn't have to be beat by beat with the game. You don't have to have the same storyline. You don't have to have the same dialogue. But make sure it feels like you're actually in that world. That's what I want it to feel like. So I think they need to have Emergence Day. They need to follow all of the stuff that the games do, even if they want to kind of take a different route to get there, for me to actually like it. But I have very low expectations for it. Netflix, when it comes to adaptations of comics, manga, video games, the record's not good, you guys. So I have very low expectations. But I hope, if anything, it does get more attention back on that game series. And because I do think that is an incredible game series that's really, really fun to go back and revisit. I've replayed it now with my oldest kid, and we had a blast going through it. Might have been until too young, that I've seemed to make that mistake a lot. But yeah, it's an awesome, awesome series. And so it getting recognition by Netflix, hopefully it'll get more eyes on the game. And they'll maybe remaster those first three. That would be really... I mean, they did the first one, sorry. They remastered the first game. I hope they'll remaster part 2 and 3 and put out a collection like they did with the Master Chief Collection. That would be really great. But guys, that's all I have for this week. What are you guys up to? What do you read? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What are you playing? Drop in the comments and let me know, and have yourselves an awesome rest of the weekend.